All right, let's talk about climate adaptation, but maybe not in the way you're used to thinking about it. We're kind of past the point of debating if we need it. The real conversation now is about the critical choices right in front of us, choices that are going to shape what our world actually looks like for generations to come.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're digging into today. See, it's not just about doing something, it's about doing the right thing. How we decide to adapt could literally be the difference between creating real safety and just creating a dangerous illusion of it.
So, first things first. The science is pretty clear on this. A certain amount of climate change is already baked in. What that means is that adaptation isn't some optional extra anymore. It's not a side dish we can choose to order. It's an absolutely essential strategy for managing the risks that are frankly already on our doorstep.
And let's be clear, this is not some distant sci-fi problem. For millions of people all over the world, the impacts are here, right now. We're talking about more intense droughts, much more devastating floods, and real threats to our food supply. So yeah, the challenge isn't just real, it's staring us right in the face.
But here's the good news, okay? We are not powerless in this. Not at all. We've actually developed a pretty powerful set of tools, a core set of strategies that we can use to build up our resilience and protect our communities. We're going to zoom in on 4 of the most critical ones today: how we handle our water, how we grow our food, how we plan our cities and towns, and of course, how we manage the growing risk from floods. Think of these as the fundamental building blocks for creating a safer future. Okay, but this is where things get tricky. Because you see, having the tools is one thing. How we use those tools is everything. And right now, there are 2 totally different philosophies, 2 distinct blueprints really, that are competing to guide our approach to survival. So let's break down these 2 paths. On one hand, you've got business as usual. This approach is reactive, it's all about short-term gains, and it's usually driven by whatever economic pressures are most immediate. It might feel like you're taking action, but way too often it just leads to a false sense of security. Then you've got the other path, risk and cost optimization. This way is proactive. It thinks long-term. It strategically balances what we spend today against the catastrophic risks we can avoid down the road. The goal here isn't a quick fix, it's genuine, long-lasting safety. So let's get clear on what this term, risk and cost optimization, or RCO, actually means. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a really smart investment. Yeah, building better flood defenses or developing drought-resistant crops costs money today, but you're weighing that cost against the absolutely massive financial and human cost of a city going underwater or a harvest failing completely. It's about playing the long game. Now, this isn't just some abstract idea, right? Let's take a look at how these 2 very different approaches actually play out in the real world using those 4 key strategies we just talked about.
Okay, let's start with flood management. The business-as-usual way loves a big, expensive, concrete seawall. The problem? Well, it creates that false sense of security we mentioned. People think they're invincible, so developers go and build whole new neighborhoods right in the danger zone. The RCO approach is just smarter. It might use a physical barrier, sure, but it combines it with things like restoring natural wetlands to absorb water. And, critically, it uses zoning laws to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't build a new school in a place we know is going to flood.
And what about water? The reactive path might just rush to build these giant energy-guzzling desalination plants. You solve a water problem, sure, but you make the climate crisis worse with all that energy use. Plus, you risk creating a system where only the rich can get reliable water. The RCO path, on the other hand, builds a whole portfolio of solutions: rainwater harvesting, water recycling, new reservoirs, and from day one it's designed to make sure everyone gets fair and equal access.
Now for agriculture. The business-as-usual approach is, well, it's basically to cross your fingers. Just keep planting the same old crops and hope the weather cooperates, right? Until it doesn't. The RCO approach is all about getting ahead of the problem. It's about developing drought-resistant crops before the disaster hits and helping farmers diversify. And here's a really key part. It focuses on getting money and technology to the small-scale farmers, especially in developing countries, because they're the ones on the absolute front lines. This quote just perfectly nails the business-as-usual mindset when it comes to how we use our land. It's the decision to approve, say, a new resort in a high-risk coastal area because of the tax money it brings in today, while totally ignoring the huge costs of sea level rise and storm surge that are coming tomorrow. It is the definition of putting short-term profit over long-term survival.
And all of this leads to a really tough reality. Not everyone is starting from the same place.
You can see it right here with this resilience gap. High-income countries, for the most part, have the money to invest in these smart, long-term RCO strategies. But many low-income countries are struggling just to afford the most basic protections, trapping them in this really dangerous, reactive cycle.
So look, we're not just talking about theory here. This is about a fundamental decision that we are all making right now about the kind of future we actually want to live in.
Here's the bottom line. The longer we stick with business as usual, the deeper the hole we're digging. Every single reactive, short-sighted decision we make today just makes the problem harder and way more expensive to fix tomorrow. We are essentially taking out a high-interest loan from our own future. And trust me, that bill is going to come due.
So here we are. The tools? They're in the toolbox. The 2 blueprints are laid out right in front of us. And we know the stakes are incredibly high. We know what works, so the only question left is the one we have to answer together. Which path are we going to choose?